Okay, this is very complicated slide, so you won't understand it by just looking at it. But I'd like to introduce a kind of historical vision of Web3 and crypto. I kind of did a study of the macro historians. So if you're familiar with names like Spengler, Toynbee, Sorokin, Quigley, etc. And I came to a hypothesis which I call the pulsation of the commons. So basically, if you look at the history of civilization, you have to know that every civilization failed, everyone. There's no exceptions. Even if you look at China, of course, it's 3,000 years, but actually it's, it's up and downs anyway. And so the idea of the pulsation of the commons is that we've forgotten about the third most important institution in the history of civilization, which is the commons. So we all know about the market and the state. We kind of believe, certainly in modernity, that we're just switching from kind of market-centric to state-centric, and there's this perpetual kind of back and forth between them. But the commons is very important. So if you look at history, let's say the indigenous period, basically the commons, communal shareholding, and the gift are basically the main value exchange. Markets are very marginal, almost non-existent, and so is the state. So when we get civilization, defined as market and state, the commons are still a very important part of empires and monarchies and these kinds of pre-capitalist systems. So think about the European Middle Ages. You have, the farmer has his own land, the land of the Lord, where he has to work as well. But there is also common land for basically the village, managed by the village. And it's a very important institution to balance out the kind of extractive exaggerations of market and states, which are always competing with each other and overusing their land base. Now, if you look at the up and down of the cyclic evolution of civilizations, you will see that when markets and states do well, the commons go down. But when markets and states start functioning less and go down, the commons go up. And most interestingly, when you have a dark age, markets and states almost completely disappear, and that's when commons become hegemonic. So think about the role of monasteries in the revival of Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire. You will have the same in China and Japan with Buddhist monastics. And I was just in Zukash in Turkey, and I was looking at the history there. And so whenever the Ottomans would conquer, militarily of course, a land, they would send basically the working class guilds and the Sufi brotherhoods to restore the abandoned villages. So this is a kind of a classic. All right, and so why is this important? Because we can make a little kind of history of the commons. So first, physical commons. So forest commons, fisheries managed by the village communities. When we get the enclosures of the 16th century, they disappear. They're basically destroyed. And then we get the social commons. So the farmers who are expelled from the cities, expelled from the farm, go to the cities, become the working class, and they create the social commons. And so what happens under modernity is like the erasure of the commons. You get, first of all, the privatization of the physical commons, but you get the statification of the social commons, right? The welfare organizations of labor become the welfare state. And this kind of changes when we arrive at the stage we are now. So 1993, the democratization of the digital networks creates vast digital knowledge commons. So this kind of brings back the commons in the consciousness and practice of millions of people. 2008, first of all, we get the financial crash. So loads of young people, we have employment, 30 to 50% in European countries, and they create a massive amount of urban and rural commons. I did a study in the city of Ghent. We went from 50 urban commons to 500 in just 10 years. Whoops. And am I already at the end? Okay, then I have to explain to you very quickly cosmolocalism. So what is cosmolocalism? It's basically the combination of everything that's heavy is relocalized, and everything that's light is global and shared. So I want just to make an argument about social change here. Crypto is an exit strategy. And that's very dangerous. If you just do arbitrage of territory, and you can move around with crypto, and you're not seen as basically an ally of local people in a situation of civilizational change, you will get rejection. And so that's basically my proposal, is that we need to create a link between the coordination capacity of code and capital of Web3 with the regenerative, basically, efforts of millions of people locally who are trying to heal their land, the soil, etc., etc. So basically, my vision is the following. We would have some form of fragmented capital, fractal capital, that would allow investment of crypto capital into local regenerative projects that is, let's say, commons compatible. There's much more to say, but I see I'm at the end of my talk, so info@cosmolocal.foundation. You can also go at wiki.p2pfoundation.com if you want to know more about this kind of cosmolocal approach. Thank you very much.